Hello and welcome back to another episode of Wilson's Weekly Rants. This week I talk about a different television show. This time it is Fox's Gotham, sitting on my table. Alright, so what is Gotham? Well, Gotham is sort of a prequel to the Batman universe saga. It tells the story of a young Bruce Wayne, but indirectly. The story really is about Commissioner Gordon and what he goes through in the early days of the Gotham PD and how he's the one good guy in a system full of corruption and whatnot. So it's an interesting take. It's kind of cool. I like it so far. It has been a pleasant surprise. It does try to be a dark and gritty, somewhat procedural cop show. Not so much as NYPD Blue or Law and Order, but they're trying. They're trying to sort of tread that that neighborhood. To say it's basically Smallville except with Batman isn't quite right, but you get the idea. So, carrying on. The episode I'm talking about specifically is called Balloon Man. That's right, Balloon Man. Sounds terrifying, doesn't it? And that's what I thought when I first saw the title. I was concerned. Let's leave it at that for now. So the episode begins like any of the other episodes do. It very much relies upon what happens in the previous episode. So you sort of link things together. I wouldn't say you have to watch the episodes in order, but I think it helps, especially with this show. So keep that in mind. So this one begins with us seeing who we find out eventually is the Balloon Man tying a corrupt investment banker to a balloon and floating the baddie off into the stratosphere. Yeah, and not only that, but we get to see a kind of a silly little image of a tiny little person being floated away above the Gotham City skyline. Now I have to tell you, at this point, I was worried. I thought, great. They made it 2 episodes. This was the 3rd episode. 2 episodes in, and they've already broken it. They're going down the silly route. All right, fine. It's against what I thought they were going to do. I thought, sure, this was the end of it, but I stuck around. And I'm glad that I did, because as I started watching it, as I started to kind of get into the story, I started to see what they were doing. Silliness of the idea of floating someone off up into the lower atmosphere, as silly as that was, it started to make sense. I started to get it, and by the end of the episode, it actually was pretty good. It was neat to see the process and what they did. Now, that said, I do have some issues with it, just from a standpoint of I really don't think it's possible to instantly inflate a weather balloon as quickly as this guy did, and then float someone up into the sky. Not to mention, part of the point of the episode is the balloon eventually pops or decompresses or whatever happens, and the body drops back down into Gotham. But I'm pretty sure atmospheric winds would have pushed that balloon further away. So I'm assuming, if Gotham is supposed to be New York or Chicago, well, if you follow the winds, they're going to end up in water, either the Atlantic or Lake Michigan. So, all right. The real purpose of the Balloon Man, of course, it had nothing to do with his ability, his power, if you want to call it that, his niche. What it was supposed to act as a primer for things to come. He wasn't really a bad guy, but he was an example of an early vigilante hero, which is what eventually we would call Batman, or at least the police department and some of the public. We see young Bruce Wayne very appreciative of his goals, but decidedly opposed to his methodology. And the reason for that is the Balloon Man killed his targets, whereas Batman never would. Batman would always avoid killing whenever possible. It does happen, of course, but Batman doesn't go out of his way to make that happen. Therefore, the Balloon Man, as much as he was a hero, he was also a villain, at least in Bruce Wayne's eyes. And this kind of helped form some early bits of what would become Batman. Since that episode, the ones that have followed have been pretty good. I have high hopes for the series, even if the fanboys of Batman out there are crying foul of certain details of this or that. Listen, I'm not a huge comic book geek, nerd, fan, whatever you want to call it. But I do appreciate their contribution to the creative world around us. And I don't see if this series is doing any harm to that. So, in my book, I think it's pretty good. If you're a hardcore Batman person that just, you've got Batman stuff all over the place, you're wearing your mask while you're watching this, you're writing me a nasty email, you may not like it. But, oh well. You know, don't watch it, I guess. But I think it's pretty good, and I like that kind of weird stuff. So, there you have it. This week's was a little short, but with that said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.